Imagine you wake up in a forest in another world and get a cheat system that instantly gives you hundreds of skills. Yuji, a non-stop office worker, suddenly wakes up in a mysterious forest. When a slime appears beside him and starts leading him into the woods, he follows it until he reaches an old house filled with hundreds of magic books. When he tries to read one, a system appears and suddenly activates, taming the hundreds of slimes gathered at his feet to become his familiars. They start jumping to grab all the magic books in the room, and instantly, he acquires hundreds of skills through his slimes and earns the title of Sage. They start calling him Yuji, making him realize they can talk. That night, he meets a legendary giant wolf ready to pounce on him, but Yuji catches it with a magic net. The wolf tries to say something, so Yuji uses monster telepathy, and the wolf starts begging for its life before Yuji offers to tame it. When the wolf agrees, he hopes it will be useful. 3 days later, he takes the Adventurer's Guild exam and learns how this world works, but he shatters the mana orb while his magic power is being assessed. Even when testing his magic power, he casts a spell without an incantation, which makes the instructor wonder. Yuji apologizes and repeats his magic while saying fireball before blowing up the rock and shocking the instructor with his abnormal magic power. After that, Yuji finds a dryad lying in the forest, so he gives it his mana through a slime, healing it. When Yuji asks what happened, she explains that someone left a cursed stone in the forest that was draining her mana. So Yuji purifies the stone, but monsters start coming out of it. Yuji traps them in a barrier before burning them to a crisp. To thank him, the dryad summons a multitude of dryad flowers, saying he is her savior. On the way back, an explosion occurs as a strange monster attacks him, but he summons his slimes to blast the monster and leaves without realizing a cursed stone is spawning the monsters. After returning to the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist wonders if he failed his quest, and all the adventurers look down on him because he is just a weak tamer. However, Yuji tells his slime to vomit out hundreds of dryad flowers, shocking everyone. But when Aegis, the guild master, wonders how he got them, an adventurer screams that thousands of monsters are moving from the direction of the forest. At that moment, the slimes scattered in the forest reveal the same thing while keeping an eye on their movements. So, Aegis orders all adventurers to evacuate, but the soldiers are reluctant to leave. As they vow to protect the city, Yuji reveals that he might be able to wipe out all the monsters and tells his slime to take out a dragon's skull. He reveals that he can use the dragon's breath with the skull. However, everyone thinks he's just bluffing. But one of the adventurers named Gale realizes there's something strange about the slimes, so he tells Aegis to let him try. So they rush to secure the city's borders as Yuji goes to a tall building and puts the dragon skull back because he was lying about its power. As the adventurers throw grenades into the air for the archers to shoot, a barrage of blades starts raining down on the monsters, but there are too many of them. Yuji starts to activate the Sage system, transferring magic after magic to the slimes to annihilate all the monsters. At that moment, the dryad sees a strange man carrying a cursed stone in the forest, so Yuji tells his slimes to approach the man with the dryad's power, teleporting them above the man. He then transfers a net spell and captures him while activating purification on the cursed stone. But the man drinks poison he had hidden in his mouth, which kills him instantly. As the guild attendant Lily realizes there's something strange about Yuji. At the same time, the adventurers are overwhelmed by the monsters, so Yuji tells his slimes to help them and transfers a fireball to burn the monsters. However, the wave of monsters has already surrounded the city, so the only way is to burn them all at once with his Hellfire of Demise. But Yuji realizes it would also wipe out the city, so he gets an idea to cast a magic barrier to protect the city from the explosion. But as Lily thinks Yuji is amazing, he tells her to stop hiding and evacuate the adventurers from the front lines. As he orders the slimes to surround the city, the dryad enters her dimensional gate. At that moment, one of the monsters breaks through, but Gale tries to hold it back, and the guild instructor knocks the monster back, but it is unharmed by their attacks. As they are overwhelmed, the legendary wolf appears and bites the monster, then brings them back to the city. So, Yuji starts to activate a barrier that covers the entire city and then unleashes the deadly Hellfire, leaving everyone amazed and in awe. The adventurers wonder how a tamer could use a god-level spell that should destroy his body. But some monsters survive the explosion, and Yuji's health starts to drain from excessive MP usage, almost making him faint. However, he tells the slimes to prepare for the next blast. he activates the barrier and his Hellfire of Demise once again, burning all the remaining monsters to a crisp, but Yuji faints after casting the spell. And when he wakes up, the slimes are waiting for him along with Lily, while the adventurers find the lantern of the cursed stone. As Yuji drinks the soup Lily made, she thanks him for saving the city and wonders why he's hiding his power. But she hopes Yuji can rest comfortably, so she leaves. He is happy to have saved the city because he only got suffering and exploitation in his past life, but he doesn't want to stand out. So he quietly leaves for the next city, leaving one slime behind just in case. At that moment, Aegis reveals that the prophecy of destruction will soon come, while 3 people plan something before the blue moon, and Yuji arrives in the city of Kelia after walking all night. Inside the city, they hope to eat some delicious meat, but Yuji realizes everyone is staring at them. When a slime sees a butcher, Yuji buys out his entire shop because they haven't eaten since the journey. After eating, they go to the guild. Ellis, the guild clerk, says that a slime tamer is too weak to be an adventurer, but when she sees that he has a tracking ability, she immediately accepts him, as it is a rare and much-needed skill. At that moment, Rhodas asks if he is the one looking for a party, then Tina introduces herself along with Lisa. When Yuji reveals he is a tamer, Rhodas thinks he will just be a burden, but Lisa doesn't care because she thinks his tracking skill will be more useful. And she thinks he is better than Rhodas because all his parties mysteriously disappear. But Yuji remembers how his co-workers used to argue and hated them for it. So they make a plan to find the Earth Dragon's lair. As they walk together through the forest, he realizes the slimes have found monsters 2 kilometers ahead, so Yuji tells his party, but they don't believe him because the distance is too far. So they start running to confirm, and find 4 wolves, but Yuji realizes there's a 5th one above them. As he tries to use magic, Rhodas slashes the wolf, telling them that he will take care of it and starts slashing them one by one. The girls are amazed, thinking Rhodas is reliable. When night falls, Tina asks how Yuji learned to track, but he answers with a useless face that he just suddenly became able to do it one day. Of course, they don't believe him, even though he's telling the truth, but Rhodas tells them to sleep and offers to keep watch at night. However, after a few hours, Yuji's slime reports that Rhodas ran into the forest during his watch, revealing that Tina and Lisa have also disappeared. As Rhodas continues to run, he realizes someone is following him. When the wolf wonders if he's been caught, he realizes Tina and Lisa are on the other side of the trees. Tina reveals that she was suspicious of Rhodas from the beginning. However, when Lisa thinks they should ask Yuji for help, Tina says he's just a tamer who can't fight. But Rhodas starts walking towards them with his sword. As soon as the bushes move, he throws his sword towards a slime and thinks he has caught the person following him, but he sees his blade is empty and the slime was barely caught as Yuji reveals he cast an invisibility spell. And as Rhodas starts running again, the girls follow him, and he nimbly avoids all the traps until he arrives at a hut where the 3 men had gathered before. When the old man wonders what Rhodas managed to gather, he reveals that he has brought 2 valuable girls along with a useless tamer and plans to say they ran away and disappeared, just as he did with his previous parties. But he thinks the girls might be following him, and the old man thinks it's time to catch them because the moon is starting to get dark, and he reveals the prophecy of disaster told by the Blue Moon of Salvation group. The 2 girls realize they need to escape, but they accidentally trigger one of the traps, setting off an alarm. When Rhodas realizes the alarm has sounded, another trap also goes off, and the old man realizes it's a large, unknown monster, so they decide to ignore it. However, the beast is none other than Yuji's familiars, and Yuji has found a medium-level spell to hide his power, ordering his slimes to take their positions. When the girls see Yuji's slimes, he transfers an ice freezing spell, freezing their entire hideout, and he realizes the spell is much stronger than he thought. After taking their bodies away, Lisa wonders if the slimes did it, and Yuji confirms, letting them think his slimes are very strong. At that moment, a purple mist begins to cover the sky, but as they are about to return, Yuji launches his slime into the sky to investigate the entire forest to find a good spot. But Tina and Lisa are stunned by what they witness, especially when the slimes make a campfire and build a tent for them. While the burdens are sleeping, Yuji remembers the prophecy of disaster that the old man mentioned. The next day, they continued to search for the Earth Dragon's tracks, but Yuji didn't want to stand out, so he cast a mana-limiting spell and then tested his magic. At that moment, the sky turned purple and the moon changed. a light descended from the sky, destroying the surrounding area with a massive explosion and revealing a blue dragon in the sky. When Yuji saw the dragon, he warned the girls that the blue dragon had appeared behind them, so they started running towards Delight Canyon. Yuji ordered his wolf and slimes to wipe out the monsters in the surrounding area, so when they found all the monsters had been slaughtered, Tina wondered how strong Yuji's slimes were. At that moment, the ground began to shake and the earth dragon emerged from the ground. The Burdens decided to hide behind a rock, leaving Yuji alone, and Tina called him crazy when he said he would slaughter the monster. He cast a spell, and his slimes launched rocks, and 2 others spewed fire, but it was unharmed, and the Burdens wondered how hard its scales were. But when the dragon launched a rock towards the Burdens, his slimes fired rocks and destroyed it. Yuji decided to increase his magic. At that moment, the earth dragon started rolling towards him, but Yuji managed to dodge, then told his slimes to launch rocks, but the dragon was still unharmed and continued to run towards him until a whirlwind emerged, blinding his view. When his slimes activated a light spell, he saw the dragon's position and cast his hellfire of demise, burning it until only its skull remained. That afternoon, when they returned to the guild, Ellis was shocked when a slime spat out the earth dragon's skull. Ellis wondered where Rhodas was, so the slime spat out his body, and he got 14,000 gold from killing the earth dragon and capturing Rhodas's gang. But the guild master dragged him to a meeting. In the meeting, Riald talked about the blue dragon that appeared according to the prophecy, but Yuji hated these same meetings in his previous life. Riald asked him to describe the blue dragon he saw. When he discovered the mind photo skill, he used it to draw the blue dragon from his mind. At that moment, the priest began to reveal the Book of Legends. According to the book, the dragon had appeared once before and grew rapidly under a dark sky in 3 days before wiping out the entire continent, and it was defeated by an emissary with the power of the gods. But Riald said that it was impossible for someone that strong to exist in this era. Riald wondered about the hero summoning ritual that was performed during a solar eclipse 30 years ago. But the priest thought the ritual had failed because nothing had happened until now. They realized this world might be destroyed in 3 days, so Riald thought their only option was to attack the dragon the next day. Then, in the cafeteria, Yuji saw the priest constantly staring at him. So that night, the priest introduced himself as Stale and revealed an ancient dagger that he brought from the capital. As he gave it to Yuji, the system revealed that it was the unbreakable dagger of Case and said that it could focus magic effects. The priest said that he was handing it to Yuji, claiming it was a demand from the gods. That night, as Yuji wondered how they would fight the blue dragon, his slimes told him that it was starting to grow even larger. Realizing it would be stronger tomorrow, he remembered the instructor telling him that his magic was too strong, so he felt like a hero and thought about defeating it alone. So that night, he headed to the forest with his familiars and soon met the dragon. When he saw the dragon, he activated his hellfire of demise, and his slimes launched a flame that exploded on the blue dragon, but the dragon was unharmed. When it got angry, it fired a laser beam that destroyed the surrounding area. Yuji cast a shield to protect himself, but he soon realized that the dragon was absorbing energy from the forest and its size was starting to increase. Yuji took out his dagger, thinking he could focus his hellfire of demise to the tip of the blade. At that moment, he started to attack with his slimes, and when the dragon released a laser beam, he activated a shield and landed smoothly. But as the dragon prepared another shot, Yuji threw a slime at it and activated a barrier to deflect the attack. Realizing there was an opening, he cast a jump-enhancing spell and started to jump higher and higher towards the dragon. But as the dragon was about to attack him, he released a fireball and stabbed its eye. He cast Hellfire of Demise into its body, causing it to fall to the ground. Just as he thought the dragon was dead, it hit him with its tail, sending him flying into a cliff. Luckily, he managed to activate his shield, but realized that his MP had gone into the negative. At that moment, the dragon flew high and prepared a devastating blast. But Yuji cast a layered shield to protect himself as the dragon spewed a laser beam. Yuji wondered how he could lure it to the ground, and soon realized that his shield was getting weaker. At that moment, he got the Divine Strike ability and raised his hand, releasing a horrifying blast at the dragon that made it fall to the ground. He mounted his wolf and they started to attack the dragon. As Yuji stabbed its neck, he sliced it with Hellfire of Annihilation and managed to split its head, causing it to explode into remnants of energy before vanishing. After the dragon was eliminated, Yuji returned to the city, and the next day, Rial told him that the dragon had been defeated, and he revealed that according to Priest Stale, the blue dragon was defeated by someone, but he thought it might have been Yuji who did it. In the cafeteria, Tina told Yuji that they would be recorded as having done a dangerous mission, even though they actually did nothing, and they were grateful the mission was canceled. Hearing her words, Yuji could only smile, even though he really wanted to hit them. When Lisa wondered what he would do now, Yuji revealed that he wanted to go on an adventure, but didn't know where to go. So, Lisa suggested that he head to Recuardo, a city on the west side of the forest, saying that the city was famous for its very delicious food. That afternoon, Yuji headed towards Recuardo, and he left his slimes to watch over them. As they started to walk through the forest, the Dryad called him, saying it was an emergency. But when he arrived, the Dryad revealed that a special mushroom had grown in the place where the blue dragon was killed, and said that she needed his help in making a special potion. She revealed that she could make a mana recovery potion with the red mushroom, and produce a mana restorer with the blue mushroom that restores the user's mana to 10 minutes prior. However, she found that the potion had an unusual color, and revealed that there was something wrong with the mushroom. She said that they might have packed too much magic power, but hoped she could fix the remaining mushrooms with clear water. Deciding to help her, Yuji created a distiller with his barrier magic and told her to boil the water until it was clear. As Yuji wondered why the potion looked like a cursed stone, the Dryad revealed that they were fused with the dragon's blessing, a special magic power that can only be found where a dragon dies. This special power made the mushroom grow, and she told him that the dragon's blessing has very abundant mana that could destroy or heal depending on its use. Just as the slimes finished purifying the water, the Dryad mixed it with the potion, and its color immediately turned blue. Since it was finally successful, she thanked him for helping her. So a few minutes later, she gave him some recovery and mana restoring potions just as he asked, saying that she would return to the Dryad Forest through her dimensional gate. Then they continued their journey, but a fog covered their path, and the wolf revealed that it smelled humans and started to follow the scent until they arrived at an old village and wondered if this was Recuardo. As Yuji tried to look around, he noticed the villagers and realized they were smiling like crazy people. At that moment, the village chief appeared and wondered how he found his way here, but Yuji said it was an accident. As he decided to invite him for a meal, he said he wanted to fill him up for his journey. But when he saw the food, Yuji said that he was not hungry. When the village chief wondered if he had a reason for entering the village, Yuji revealed that he was heading to Recuardo before getting lost. At that moment, he noticed the creepy villagers staring at him from the windows, and when the village chief tried to say that they were surprised to have a guest, Yuji started to leave, and before leaving, he asked the name of this village, so the village chief mentioned Messias Village is the name of this village. Yuji left to continue his journey through the forest, and as Yuji thought they would soon arrive in Recuardo, they found themselves in a snowstorm after coming out of the forest. As they continued their journey through the cold, Yuji decided to activate an isolation barrier, warming his body. After a few hours, they finally arrived in Recuardo, and the guards told him that the snowstorm had mysteriously come a few days ago. When they wondered why he came, he revealed that he was here for good food. Inside the city, he tried to find a restaurant but realized the streets were deserted and even the water was frozen. When he finally arrived at a restaurant, the waitress named Mito told him that they were already closed and couldn't open due to a shortage of firewood. As Yuji thought the food must be very delicious, he wondered if the only thing they needed was firewood. But Mito told him that it had to be dried for 100 years to be used for cooking. Since he already wanted to eat, he headed to the forest, hoping to make some firewood. He summoned an axe, and with his combat art skill, he cut down a dozen trees with a single slash. Then, in a few minutes, he had already cut them into logs. And as he activated the slime's moisture absorption skill, his slime sucked the water out of all the logs until they were dry. So he returns to the restaurant, and Mito wonders how he could have gotten them. She asks if it's usable for cooking, so Mito rushes to find the chef. When the chef arrives, he says the logs are too dry and would burn down the entire restaurant if they tried to cook with them. Before they realize it, Yuji activates his slime's moistening spell and returns it to the chef. At that moment, the chef realizes that it's exactly what they need. And as they light the stove, he promises to make Yuji a special meal. So he orders his slimes to vomit out the rest of the logs, and soon it vomits them into a huge pile. At that moment, his stomach rumbles, so the chef decides to prepare a meal for him. Shortly after, he serves a grilled steak, and the taste sends him flying to a heavenly realm. When he finishes, he thanks them for the meal, but the chef tells him that this isn't even close to their best dish. Excited by that thought, Yuji promises to return the next day to taste that food, but Mito starts telling him that they can't use all the firewood, considering the entire city has no wood to warm their homes. At that moment, Yuji thinks that he just needs to make more firewood and promises to return the next day. Shortly after, he arrives at the Adventurers Guild and realizes that the only thing on their mission list is firewood. When he offers to take the mission, the guild receptionist Meryl tells him to meet the wood instructor. So, when the wood instructor Wodka sees his ID, he welcomes him, saying that they can barely meet the city's demand of delivering 5 tons of firewood every day. He says that only their village is experiencing a snowstorm and the nearby villages are helping out. Yuji asks about Messias village, but Wodka tells him that its inhabitants left long ago. Yuji thinks it's mysterious and decides to start his work as Wodka begins to say that he looks weak and useless. Yuji cuts down several trees with a single slash, and in an instant he starts cutting them into logs and stacking them into one pile. At that moment, his slimes start drying them and Wodka is left speechless. By the end of the day, Yuji has prepared several piles of logs, enough to last the entire city for several days, but he thinks it's not enough and performs a massive slash, cutting down almost all the trees in the forest and turning them into more logs. So, with his impressive work, he earns a lot of money from the guild. The next day at the restaurant, when he is served a new dish, the taste sends him to nirvana, and the blend of flavors feels like a Big Bang explosion. However, the chef reveals that it's not even his best dish. And Mito says that the Rishia herb used to cook their best dish was eaten by the greedy boar monster, and they can only make the best dish if all those monsters are gone. Without a word, Yuji starts to leave, ready to wipe out every monster just to taste this food. Shortly after, he orders his slimes to scout the forest for monsters, and when his slimes find the greedy boar, Yuji activates a spell, burning the beast instantly. Shortly after, he notices a mysterious orb, and when he decides to look at it, the Dryad tells him that she can feel a trace of magic from within it. When Yuji touches the stone, they find that it absorbs his mana, and she says it might be a dragon's blessing, a powerful magic that creates cursed magic stones. The Dryad reveals that the orb absorbs all the mana in the area, and Yuji thinks the loss of mana must have caused the snowstorm. Realizing it's the only way to stop the snow, Yuji casts an anti-magic barrier on the orb and dispels the curse, turning it into a regular orb. Instantly, in a few hours, he has purified 108 cursed orbs around the forest and marked the area using a thoughtograph. Just as they arrive in the middle of the forest, he thinks some large trees were intentionally left untouched, and he thinks there's something strange. As he orders the slimes to retreat, the Dryad wonders what he is going to do, so he tells her that he will burn all the trees in front of him. As the Dryad agrees with his plan, saying that she trusts him, he unleashes his hellfire of annihilation on the entire forest, burning all the trees in a devastating explosion. So, in the middle of the crater, they find a secret entrance, and Yuji reveals that it must lead to the enemy's headquarters. So, as Yuji destroys the entrance, they find a secret tunnel, and he descends into it. As he notices a large machine, he wonders how modern technology could be here. And as he sees more machines with cursed stones, he realizes that the cursed stones are made here. At that moment, 2 men rush in, wondering why the machine is no longer working. They think the machine must have been destroyed by the explosion in the forest and rush out to tell their leader. As Yuji arrives in a hallway, he realizes that he could easily be seen, so he casts a stealth monster spell on his slimes to make them invisible, and they continue their search. So as he returns to the forest, the slimes reveal that they have found the men, and they take advantage of a door crack, jumping across the hallway until they arrive at a dead end. At that moment, they notice 2 levers, and Yuji thinks they might have to be pulled at the same time. So as the slimes press the levers, the door opens. At that moment, shortly after, they find a staircase and they begin to climb. At the same time, Yuji arrives at a cliff and realizes that the creepy Messias village is right in front of him. In the village, his slimes start listening to a mysterious group, and Yuji realizes that those people are pretending to be villagers so they can make cursed stones underground. When the leader, Javier, finds out that their cursed source has been destroyed by the explosion, he starts telling his men and thinks a meteorite has hit it. So he says that they have to take all the cursed orbs and leave the village immediately. However, when one of the men thinks they will be seen moving around the forest, Javier tells them to execute all the witnesses they meet because their plan has been ruined and thinks the village is useless as a disguise. As the men leave, Yuji orders his slimes to surround the village, thinking some innocent villagers might have been captured. But they find the village deserted and that the strange group is the only one left. So as the slimes head to Javier's office, Yuji tells them to eat all the books, so they start devouring them. At the same time, in the forest, Yuji notices two men from the strange group, so he casts a magic net and manages to restrain them. However, when they realize they have been exposed, they scream as if brainwashed and commit suicide on the spot. At that moment, the slimes find a sealed entrance, and Yuji realizes it must be an important room, so he directs the slimes to stand in front of the candles and blow them out with a wind cutter. At that moment, the door opens, revealing a room full of treasure, and Yuji wonders where they got so much gold. At that moment, a member arrives and finds their treasure room has been wiped clean. So as the rest of the strange group realizes this, they soon find that the presence of their other members has vanished from the forest. At that moment, Javier reveals that their curse source was not destroyed by a meteorite, but by someone else. A man wonders why they haven't been attacked yet, so Javier says that the enemy probably realizes that their deaths will activate the purification flame and will destroy the entire world. However, Yuji has just discovered this and realizes that eliminating them all is not an option. As Javier decides to suggest a plan, he pulls out his dagger, saying that it's better to destroy the world along with Yuji. The other members think he might be right and decide to pull out their daggers, so at the same time, they shout a phrase about cleansing the world and stab their own necks. At that moment, the purification flame loses control and the ground begins to shake. As Yuji realizes it's about to erupt, he covers his slimes in a barrier sphere and launches them out of the village. So immediately, he activates a series of anti-magic barriers to contain the explosion. At that moment, a green flame erupts from the ground, obliterating the entire village and starting to destroy the barrier. As Yuji realizes it won't hold, he starts looking for a strong barrier to contain the flame, but the walls start to collapse. At that moment, he combines the barriers into a total isolation array. As he activates the magic, a dark shield covers the flame, but his MP starts to decrease rapidly. Despite that, the explosion only intensifies and almost destroys even this barrier, but he manages to hold it until it erupts into the sky. With the world safe again, Yuji notices his MP is in the negative. That night when they arrive at the village, he finds people waiting for him, and as he wonders why they are gathered in the square, Wodka tells him that they noticed a massive explosion in the forest, and Meryl thought it was a meteorite. Yuji tells them that he is glad to see the city is safe, so Wodka tells him that the meteorite might have stopped the snowstorm. At that moment, Yuji notices that the frozen water is starting to melt, and on the next day, he realizes the weather is as warm as summer. As Wodka invites him for breakfast, he says that they intend to celebrate the end of winter. So, inside the restaurant, Yuji finds that he is being celebrated as the guest of honor, and Wodka tells him that the townspeople are glad that he provided firewood during the snowstorm. At that moment, Mito appears before his eyes and thanks him for slaughtering the greedy boar. So, with the beast dead, they manage to stock up on the best Rishia herb, and shortly after, she serves a special dish for him for his help. As Yuji takes a bite, the wonderful taste of the food literally sends him to nirvana. When he wakes up that night, he decides to read the scrolls from Javier's office, but the words vanish before his eyes, except for one scroll, and he realizes it's a list of people that the Blue Moon of Salvation group is trying to eliminate. Meanwhile, in a nearby city, two assassins wipe out a group of people, and a man named Yuki finds out that Yuji's name is next on the list. So the next day, they start spying on him from a cliff, wondering if he is a worthy target.
And that's the end of this arc, but our adventure isn't over. Click subscribe.
If you want to see the next part, comment down below.